Hello everyone and welcome to today's video, where today I am going to be looking back on the predictions that I made for the 2020-2021 Premier League season. There will be many predictions that I get horribly wrong, but without further ado, let's see how bad my predictions are. In 20th place and finishing bottom, I am going with Fulham. I just think the inexperience of Scott Parker being in the Premier League and the quality of players that he has, I just don't see them doing well enough to stay up, and unfortunately, I think they're going to finish bottom. Well, most of that was right because Fulham, their players were just not up to the standard for the Premier League. They weren't scoring enough and they were conceding a lot of goals. But they finished 18th. I can't believe that. As if I went for bottom. In 19th place, I am going with West Brom. I just think that with Slaven Bilic in charge, and given how much of a decline he had whilst he was at West Ham, I just don't think he's made for the Premier League. Well, we've got our first correct prediction because he actually finished 19th. And most of that, again, was right about Slaven Bilic because he got sacked in December. Not long after Sam Allardyce, who is very well known for getting teams out of relegation battles and actually staying up in the Premier League, it made no difference because he still got them relegated. I'll admit, whilst there were some good results for West Brom while Sam Allardyce was in charge, it still wasn't good enough and they still did really bad. But yeah, the fact that I've got one prediction right so far and we're only at 19th, optimism. That's what I'm hoping for in this video right now. And the last team who I think are going to get relegated are West Ham United. Oh, for f***'s sake. No more optimism. Let's see what I said about them. After my abysmal prediction, where I thought they would finish 10th and they finished 16th and have been around the relegation zone for many seasons now, and you think they're going to improve, but they somehow don't. I think this is their final Premier League season in which they'll stay in and they're just going to get relegated. I think that prediction is about as bad as my haircut that I had for this video, because West Ham finished 6th. Yeah, they were fighting for a Champions League place at one stage, but yeah, this has been an incredible season for them. I feel like West Ham have actually benefited from not having fans in the stadium, because when David Moyes took charge of West Ham again, a lot of West Ham fans were like, oh, here we go again, David Moyes, nothing exciting. But without the fans in the stadium to get on his back and the players' backs if they're performing badly, David Moyes has actually been able to do things that he's always wanted to do with the West Ham team. Get the players that want to play for him, and any players that are just doing absolutely bad for West Ham, just get them out of the club. But he's actually shown why he's still a proven manager in the Premier League and not washed up compared to other managers. Hopefully as well, this isn't a one season wonder where they do get Europa League this season and then next season they're just fighting for relegation. Narrowly avoiding relegation and finishing in 17th, I think that it will be Brighton. Well, they finished 16th. To be fair for Brighton, there were times where they did have a good defensive record and kept quite a few clean sheets, which were helping them out dramatically, but they just didn't score as many goals as you would have thought they would have. And I think that's got to improve, otherwise they're going to be fighting for relegation once again. 16th place, I am going with Crystal Palace. Well, Crystal Palace finished 14th. This has got to be one of the most weirdest seasons for Crystal Palace, because when they officially avoided relegation, they kind of just let the weeks go by and they didn't really do too much for this season. And they've got such a big summer to come along as well, because 12 of their first team players are out of contract. But as well as the players, the manager's leaving as well. Roy Hodgson is actually leaving Crystal Palace, so God knows who they're going to get in for their manager for next season, because it could be anyone. I don't even know what to think about Crystal Palace right now.
In 15th place, I have gone for Aston Villa.
Well, Aston Villa finished 11th in the end. They've shocked me, won't lie, because the transfers that they brought in has been one of the smartest that Aston Villa have done in a long time. Plus as well, they kept Jack Grealish. However, whilst Aston Villa did really well, Jack Grealish got injured for like the last part of the season, so like for 10 games or something like that towards the end of March, and Aston Villa just fell down the table a bit. They weren't getting any wins, they weren't doing as well with Jack Grealish not being in the team. That's got to change. They need someone else as well as Jack Grealish to help them out. I think for 11th place, that's really good for Aston Villa this season. And who knows, they may get some more smart transfers into the side, and they might finish in the top half next season.
14th place, I have gone for Newcastle United. I just think that as long as they actually score goals and win a couple of games, then yeah, I could see them finishing 14th.
Newcastle finished 12th, so not far off on that prediction. The thing is with Newcastle, they were the most boring team ever. Like, you could just get a 2-0 victory against them because you knew full well that their strikers and their midfield have not been good enough. And I know that Newcastle did have an outbreak of COVID at the start of December, so that kind of hindered their performances for about 2 months, I'd say. And I don't even know how they finished 12th in the end, because for a long time they were 17th and looked like they were on the verge of getting relegated. Don't know how they've done that, but they need to improve so much attacking wise next season. Otherwise, relegation is going to be looming for them once again.
In 13th place, I have gone for Burnley. I could just see them having a decent season like they always do.
Well, they didn't have a decent season, Dan, because they finished 17th. I know that they've got like the Premier League experience and battling relegation and more experience than most other teams, but they're just there. They are just there, aren't they? There's nothing to say about them.
In 12th place, I have gone for Leeds United.
Leeds finished 9th. They finished in the top half of the table. And what do you even say about Leeds this season? They've continued on their style of play from the Championship into the Premier League, and we have had some mad games. Like, they would lose 4-3 to Liverpool, 5-2 to Man United, but then all of a sudden they're absolutely battering teams like West Brom 5-0. So you got like an even amount of goals conceded, but also goals scored as well. Whilst they may not have won as many games as they would have liked to, I think that will improve more when some transfers happen in the summer. But they've got to be the right transfers for Marcelo Bielsa's team, otherwise it's just not going to work for them, and they may even just finish mid-table or just above the top half of the table, finishing in 9th again possibly.
Narrowly missing out on the top 10 and finishing in 11th, I have gone with Sheffield United. I just think a lot of teams will have sussed them out, plus they don't have Dean Henderson anymore because he was on loan at Sheffield United. They've signed a new goalkeeper from Bournemouth, but is he going to do as well as what Dean Henderson was doing for Sheffield United last season? Only time will tell.
Well, I was kind of right about that. However, they finished bottom. Yeah, Sheffield United were really bad. Sheffield United didn't really score that many goals. They were conceding quite a lot of goals as well. And it was probably to do with the fact that Dean Henderson wasn't at the club anymore, and they brought in Aaron Ramsdale from Bournemouth, who previously got relegated with Bournemouth. And yeah, they were just conceding a lot of goals, and it got worse for Sheffield United when their manager Chris Wilder left. He was having like arguments with the board and the chairman, saying that he needed more money for better quality players to come into the side, but the chairman was like, nope, you've got all these players, make them better. Don't get me wrong, I did think that they would get relegated, like, not this season, but next season. But now that they have got relegated, it's just a question of whether they can come back, and I'm not really sure whether they will, to be honest.
In 10th place, I have gone for Southampton. They had a very bad start to the season last season, and it pretty much summed it all up when they lost 9-0 to Leicester. And after that result, they got a lot better. I feel that if they don't have that slow start and pick up a few results, I could see Southampton getting into a top 10 place.
Well, Southampton finished 15th, so it's not the best of predictions from me there. And weirdly enough, you would think one 9-0 loss would have been enough for them. They lost 9-0 again to Man United. Nothing else to say except that they've got to improve for next season. They need to get better players into the team, and I don't know if they're going to be moving anyone on, but just have to wait and see.
9th place, I have gone for Everton. They are now making transfers happen, and it is the players that Ancelotti wants, but there are still some players who are just still so bad. They still need to make some more transfers, but yeah, I could see them finishing 9th.
Well, Everton finished 10th, which is a bit unfortunate for them because of how tight the Premier League table actually was for like European places. The issue with Everton was that although Ancelotti got in players that he wanted at the club, there are still players there who still wouldn't make Ancelotti's team, and they do have to go. Like, half of the squad still needs sorting out. And it's a shame really, because they were doing really well at the start of this season. Like, they were top of the league, but they just fell down the pecking order and they've ended up in 10th. But they still need to get in players that Ancelotti wants to work with and can work with, and just get rid of half the squad.
8th place, I have gone for Leicester City. Now, with Europa League, I do see them falling down the pecking order a bit, but their heavy reliance on the Europa League is probably going to be the reason why. I'm not expecting them to fall all the way down the table.
Oh God, why did I put Leicester here? Because they finished 5th. And again, they were fighting for a Champions League spot for the majority of the season, and it only took until towards the end of the season where they fell out of the Champions League spots. But you do have to give Leicester credit this season in other competitions that's not the Europa League, but it was actually the FA Cup that they won. So finishing 5th and winning an FA Cup, is that better than no trophy and finishing in the top 4? For Leicester, possibly, because this will go down as their second best season, with their first being when they won the league. But we'll have to see what happens to Leicester, because their recruitment is actually really good and they still keep on fighting for a Champions League spot. So I may have to put them a lot more higher in my predictions for sure.
In 7th place, I have gone for Wolves. I feel like they've maintained themselves as a top team now, and everyone does have to look out for them to make sure that they don't drop those points against them.
Wolves finished 13th. It has been a disappointing season for them. Maybe they were sussed out in a lot of games with the formation that they do play. It also didn't help Wolves with the fact that they had a lack of a striker, because Raul Jimenez unfortunately got a fractured skull in a game against Arsenal, and he was missing for the majority of this season. But to make matters worse for Wolves now is that Nuno Espirito Santo, their manager, is leaving the club. Things could not look so good for Wolves, unfortunately, because we don't know who this manager is that's going to be coming in. We don't know which players are going to be coming in, which players are going to be leaving. It's a big summer again for Wolves, and they have to do better than the 13th place that they did for this season.
In 6th place, I have gone for Arsenal. I feel that Mikel Arteta knows what he's doing. He knows what players to get in. He knows what he's doing.
Oh, why did I have such high hopes for Arsenal? They finished 8th. Not even in the Europa League. They didn't even make that this season. And it looked like at times Arteta had no idea what he was doing at the club. And whilst Arteta has got rid of like some of the dead wood that was at the club, there's still so much that needs to change at that club. And I think at times Arteta has looked out of his depth, unfortunately. Unless they get the funding to spend on players that Arteta can work with, they're not going to be finishing in any European spot at all for a couple of seasons. If it stays the way it is, they could finish way lower.
Narrowly avoiding the Champions League, I have gone for Tottenham to finish 5th. I've said this before, with Jose Mourinho in charge of the club, I don't see them necessarily improving.
Oh, so Tottenham finished 7th. Oh my word, I don't even know where to begin with Tottenham. Like at the start of the season, they were fighting for the Premier League title and they were actually top at one stage. But they absolutely capitulated and they just haven't been good enough this season at all. And to make matters worse, Jose Mourinho got sacked. So I was right about Jose Mourinho, but again, they've got a big summer as well because they literally have to get a new manager. Harry Kane looks like he's going to be leaving, hopefully for Man City. But we'll have to see on that. The amount of goals and the amount of assists that he got for Tottenham, he was carrying that team. And without those goals and assists, they wouldn't have finished where they have. They could be like Arsenal. They won't get into any of the European spots, including the Europa League.
In 4th place, I have gone for Manchester United. After their season where they got 3rd and brought in some decent players who fit the squad quite well. Yeah, Man United looked like a force to be reckoned with.
Well, I should give Man City's rivals a bit more credit because they finished 2nd. Whilst I think they were a little bit lucky to be getting 2nd in the table because some of their performances have improved, but also they've looked like the same old Man United from before. Man United still need 1 or 2 players to even compete for the league. Like in midfield, they've got to get a central defensive midfielder to improve more solidly defensively. And they need a right winger. So again, they've got a big summer to try and improve their squad. And you never know, they might actually be competing for the title.
In 3rd place, I have gone for Chelsea. Since Chelsea had that transfer ban, they have been making up for lost time and buying really quality players. I'll admit, defence still looks a bit fragile, and because of their quality up front, they're going to be scoring a lot more goals, and I think they'll finish 3rd, but the defence might still let them down.
Oh, where to begin with Chelsea, because they finished 4th. Whilst they have made up for lost time with the transfers that they did make and spending a lot of money, they were doing quite well. Defensively, they were not too bad. And I think at one stage they were fighting for the league title. They were top as well. But December happened and I don't even know what happened to them. They just started losing a load of games. And in the bigger games, it just looked like Chelsea could never get a result with Lampard as their manager. And unfortunately, Lampard actually lost his job towards the end of January and brought in Thomas Tuchel. And at the time, I thought it was a bit harsh on Frank Lampard to get the sack. I think it was unfortunate for him. I felt like they should have gave him until the end of the season to try and improve things, but the Chelsea board weren't having it. Tuchel came in and I've got to say he's actually done really well. Like defensively, they've kept it up, and unfortunately for like the strikers in the midfield, they haven't scored enough goals to propel them into a higher position. And I would have thought it would have been Timo Werner to do that, but look how that turned out.
In 2nd place, I have gone for Liverpool. Now, I'm not saying that they're not going to be competing for the Premier League. since they won it last season. I think they'll still try and get as many trophies as they can and win as many games as possible. I feel like it's just going to be a second season syndrome.
Well, they did kind of have a second season syndrome, but they finished third. And I've got to say, for Liverpool, it's been a really rocky season for them. Like, it all started off with Van Dijk getting injured, and we always ask that question of, if Van Dijk was injured, how badly would Liverpool have been affected by his absence? Don't get me wrong, it looked like for a while that Liverpool would have coped with Van Dijk not being in the squad, not necessarily winning the league without him, but they could still get by. But unfortunately, Van Dijk missed the entirety of the season, and then they lose their second best centre-back in Joe Gomez for the season. Then they lose their third choice centre-back in Joel Matip, and they were strapped for defensive options. Like, they were putting midfielders at centre-back at one stage. But with those players, you would have expected Liverpool to have that quality up front to keep scoring the goals. But the only player that was really scoring for them was Mo Salah. You have the likes of Firmino and Mane not contributing enough. Diego Jota, who they brought in from Wolves, he was injured for most of the season. So the injuries that they have, you've got to say that it has made a major difference to how Liverpool have played this season. You've got to give them credit for getting into the Champions League spot, because without them in the Champions League and being in the Europa League, God knows what would have happened to Liverpool, like with transfers and everything like that.
And speaking of Man City, I've put them to finish top. I mean, what are you expecting from a Man City fan?
Champione! Champione! Man City finished top of the league. Get in there, City! But we need to be serious for this period of time, because it looked like for a while that we were never going to win the league. We had a very, very slow start. We weren't scoring as many goals as we would have liked, but I still felt like we could have improved in some of the games that we were playing. And unfortunately, we were as low as 10th, maybe even lower as well. So the fact that we've managed to win the league, given where we were and everyone writing Man City off, that in itself is an incredible achievement. And it changed a lot mid-December, because literally we faced West Brom and we drew against them, and Pep Guardiola and all the players literally came out into a meeting and said that, look, this isn't good enough from us. This is not the Man City way. The way we're playing, it's not acceptable. Whatever was said in that meeting, my God, that we dramatically improved, because we went on this incredible winning streak. From like mid-December to the start of March, we won every single game, including cup competitions. I can't really say too much about how well Man City have done, because they have given me some great moments to watch this season. And every weekend I've always looked forward to watching Man City play when we are stricken by COVID and everything that's going on in the world right now. It's made the weekends a whole lot better watching Man City just playing great football. And whilst we may not have scored as many goals as I would have liked to have seen, just seeing us win games and winning trophies, what more can you ask for? But there you go. That is my reaction to my predictions that I made for this season's Premier League. Given that this season has been heavily affected by coronavirus, with no fans in the stadiums except for mid-December when you had the likes of Southampton, Liverpool and London. Why the London had no restrictions on them for having fans in the stadiums, I will never know. This season has been mad. It's been hard to keep up with a lot of games this season because of how quickly games were coming out of nowhere. And I think this season we can just look back on and think, wow, this has been a weird season, not having fans in the stadiums or seeing people wearing masks and doing interviews socially distanced and everything like that. And fingers crossed as well, we can get back to normal with the new season coming up in August, where we can have fans in the stadiums and that there won't be any restrictions globally or in the UK. But anyways, that is where I'm ending today's video. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you soon with another video. Peace!